Well, good morning, everybody. In today's forecast video, I just want to kind of give you a quick preview here. We're going to talk about, of course, this large system that went through the United States and watch for the subsequent systems in the models. We will do a model comparison and look at the skill source too, but later I will talk about this sudden stratospheric warming event some of you have been asking about, and I'll tell you why I haven't been covering it too much. I'll even talk a bit about South America, Australia, and about 5 minutes before I started recording this morning, the new seasonal European data came out. So we're going to look at it. I have not analyzed it, okay? So we're just going to look at it at the very end. So the thing that caught my eye again yesterday was, once again, just a very, very large area of dust on the southern side of this huge cyclone. And we're going to take a look at kind of all aspects of it in a few moments, but I'm just going to make a comment again about what we just saw here with this big kind of winter/spring storm system. We need more of these. We need a lot more of these to go across the United States. And I understand that they produce a lot of severe weather to the south. I'll show you that in a few seconds. And there's still blizzard conditions moving across parts of the Midwest. But the reality of having an active pattern like this is that I've been so concerned for months about these pockets of drought that are around the United States, that systems like this, especially if they start to shift north and south a bit and wind up in different areas, can start to eat away at those drought concerns. And if we're going to do it, March is the time to do it for many of us. Now, down south, this is problematic. We're trying to get a crop season started down here, and we see such a large system coming through. And I just want to show you down here in Texas just the size of the dust. It was actually coming out of parts of Colorado into this side of Kansas, the panhandles, and there it is, just a lot of dust. And there's our continued wildfire down here in parts of Mexico as well. It was interesting. I could see a little bit of the clearing here, and you can see some of the snow. There's one spot we can see it in this part of Colorado, which was to the south of Denver. A lot of us were there for Commodity Classic over the last few days. But just to show you what the 72-hour snowfall forecast looked like through last night, this is just a good idea of where that snow came. So we did get more in the mountains here, and then it came out into the plains. And then last night, this is what was added. And this is only through midnight, so there's still more that's getting added to this area this morning. I just kind of wanted to get a good look at this. I tried to pull up some of the station data to show you, but some of that wasn't filling in yet this morning, so we'll probably get more of those reports as the day goes on. Now, the winds were incredible, but the precipitation out of this was desperately needed. And just through 6 a.m. this morning, Central Time, looking at total precipitation out of this, we hit some spots of like Nebraska, South Dakota, Iowa, with rain that they have not had in a very, very long time. I just want to take you in here. Same thing for Northern Illinois as well, but right in through this part of Iowa. Let's go into Des Moines. I just pulled up the data from my website here, typing in Des Moines. And I want to show you, there's this morning what the cyclone looks like on radar. But as you slide down here, I just want you to see this. We were like flatlined on precipitation, but just here and literally in the last 24 hours, we've now added quite a bit, and we're back up closer to average. So if you'd have seen this yesterday, we were at about 30% of normal on precip on the year. And this one system kind of punched us up into this area. So just a great way to kind of visualize what one storm system can do. Now, speaking of that, let me go back and show you yesterday's storm report. Let's blow these up so you can see it. This is, there we go. Let's look at the unfiltered reports. They're going to get this kind of filtered down later on today, but 190 reports in total, including 7 tornadoes. And it was a lot of widespread wind damage. And many of us across the country experienced very, very strong winds out of this system. And we can see again this morning that there's a broad area that is still under wind advisories, high wind watches on the backside. And we still have our blizzard warning out early this morning into this particular area. So we're going to watch that continue. It'll be done pretty soon. The system's moving very quickly off to the east and already following it. I'm going to talk about what's going into the west in just a few minutes here. So take all of that and just kind of have a look at this. Through the next 60 hours, there is one thing, though, that's a little off for me. The National Weather Service does have a large area down here with the wind advisories. And will we be seeing winds possibly gusting above 30? Yeah, I think we will. But the strongest winds out of this are going to be still here today, moving into the northeast. And then we have to watch for this coming through very soon again. So this is hitting parts of Colorado, coming out of Arizona and New Mexico. Very, very strong winds. And we're going to see fire threat increasing in this part of the country, not today, but tomorrow and the next day. Okay, severe weather threat. This is just a current look at what the Storm Prediction Center's got for today. So we're going to watch this squall line very quickly advance toward the south and east and then get up here into parts of the mid-Atlantic as well, where we have a big area of Virginia, North and South Carolina under an enhanced risk of severe storms. If we just get a good look at the current system on radar, this front is moving very quickly. So it's already through Georgia in the early morning hours. There it is. And it's coming into the Carolinas kind of as we speak here. So this is, I guess this would be about 7 a.m. East Coast time as I'm recording. And on the backside, we still have snow falling. Now, this blizzard was never about the amount of snow. It was about the way that it was going to be blown by the wind, although some very heavy snowfall amounts did accumulate in parts of the Midwest around the system, as you saw a few moments ago. That system's moving pretty quickly. And I wanted to show you on the high-resolution rapid refresh model, we often call it the HRR, how this is going to shape up. So by 9 a.m., we are expecting this to be pushing through parts of Virginia, North and South Carolina, and the tail end getting through Georgia. But look how quickly the squall line by 11 a.m., getting into early afternoon here. That's 1 p.m., 2, 3, 4 o'clock. It rips across pretty quickly. This is going to be one of those intense but brief squall lines, right? It comes ripping through and it's done pretty fast. So it's just going to zip through. It'll be out by the time we get into this evening. We're going to watch the backside. Some of this will be snow on the backside here coming through parts of the Mid-South. So that system rips through pretty quickly, and then we get a bit of a break into the southeast after this. Now, if we come back to where there's snow this morning, I wanted to show you the surface observations. It's a bit of a mess, I know, but I'm looking here, just kind of blurring my eyes first to see just constant 30 to 35, 40 mile an hour winds coming out of the northwest. So again, this is about 6 a.m. Central Time. But what I was looking for here are the weather symbols. And if you've never taken a moment to look at the weather symbols, let's find one that's pretty simple here, and I'll kind of show you a couple things. How about this one in Quincy? So temperature, dew point temperature, and then what you've got here is the current weather. You can get some information about visibility, wind speed, direction, all of that. All right. But if we kind of get in here, we see some pretty interesting weather symbols like 3 asterisks. That actually represents moderate to heavy snow. There's some other interesting ones like this one here. And if we kind of look at what our weather symbols are, these are all the different weather symbols they could put in there. That one is fog depositing rime, sky discernible. Okay, so the other one here is sky not discernible. So you can kind of look and try to figure out what you've got. So basically here in northern Iowa, we've got riming taking place. So this is where the ice is accumulating on surfaces. Like you may think about it as the way it might accumulate on an airplane wing. That's what's going on in this area. The center of the low is currently sitting right here, and it is going right over northern Illinois, and then the backside of this is going to come ripping through pretty quickly here. So we'll be watching this system intently throughout the rest of the day. Here's the high-res NAM forecast of this through the mid-morning into the afternoon. So we're going to see quite a bit of snow showers, and some intense snow on the backside of this as the frontal squall line zips through. Now, most of the Northeast gets rain out of this initially, and we saw the stronger winds that will be pushing into this area as well. But immediately, attention is going to go back to the west, because already by 4 o'clock tonight, our next low is coming through. Heavy snows in the Sierra Nevada, heavy snow getting at times into parts of Nevada as well. But this front right in through here is going to scour things out in this area. It already has, leaving behind it too dry of air and not allowing for a quick enough recovery of the moisture back into the plains, because the high pressure is located there and not over here. So by early tomorrow morning, as we're watching the leftover snow moving through parts, of the eastern Great Lakes down to the Appalachian Mountains, our next system comes over the Rockies, and it just doesn't have enough moisture to work with. That's the problem. It's just not opened up the Gulf enough to higher moisture air to give us much of a big, warm sector with plenty of risk of thunderstorms and heavy rain here. So we're going to watch the snow spread into this area, as you can see, and that's kind of where it's going to be. That's where the best lift in the atmosphere is going to be. We might get some showers and some pop-up storms here, but we're not talking about too much. My friend Kevin, I hope you're watching. Look at this. I've got more of this coming for you down into Arizona as well. I'll come back to that in just a few moments, because this pattern is really trying to help you out in a big way. Okay, I mentioned the moisture. I want you to see it. This is the dew point temperature. So we're measuring here. This is an absolute measure of moisture in the atmosphere. So the current warm sector is open east, and it's quickly replaced by drier air already by tonight. And we're going to watch this drier air just press east. And look, see, this is the system I just mentioned. We're opening up a small sector here of moist air, but Dew points in the 40s and low 50s is kind of not enough to get the job done. If we were talking about dew points in the 60s, then we'd be seeing plenty of moisture for another round of strong to severe storms. So we just don't have that quite into this area. So by Friday, this is the moisture-starved nature of the storm system. The front really sags to the south. I'll show you what this is going to do down here in the southeast in a moment for rainfall. But then we just watch through the weekend into early next week, and we see a bigger warm sector begin to open by midweek next week. And I want to tell you about that storm system in just a few moments here. But here's some bigger picture things. This is what we've been covering all week, right? What are the changes? The Pacific Ridge is here. So we're getting flow, troughs on repeat coming across the United States. There's a blocking pattern in the North Atlantic where there's a high over low. And that is what's basically providing the setup for just repeated storm systems, at least through mid-month and possibly beyond that. So again, I'm just going to show it to you like this. If you go and look at this on the website, every time you can just play it quickly and you see repetitive troughs of low pressure sneaking through the country, that is an indication that we've got an open and moving pattern. And this one's going to be one to watch. It's late next week, but this is one that we've got a little bit of a negative tilt on it already in the ensemble, and I think that's going to be a big mid-month storm system as we approach like the 13th and 14th coming out of the Rocky Mountains into the Central Plains. So watch out for that guy. I'll show you it in just a few moments here. Okay. Compare the models real quick. GFS on the left, European on the right. First system out, we've already looked at it. Second system spreading its snow. Very good model representation here. Lines up, with the NAM pretty well. But you won't notice much moisture on the south side of it until that piece comes out of Arizona. So light precip by Saturday moving through the eastern Corn Belt, this side of the Ohio Valley toward the northeast. There it goes. And then you're going to watch that next wave coming out pretty far to the south. This is possibly snow for the panhandles, snow coming out of New Mexico, and you're going to see some heavy rains along the Gulf Coast. There it is. Now, this is an area that needs the rain. We've got to get more moisture here. Notice that the GFS is more aggressive on more moisture north than the European. European's got a lot of high pressure to the north of this. But watch this next system coming in on Sunday into Monday into the west, curls up, hits the Sierra Nevada again. This is one that pulls over the Rockies, and it's followed by what could be a pretty powerful kind of onshore flow event by next Wednesday. And that is the system in the deeper trough that's going to come ripping across the United States, again, late next week. And here's what it looks like in the models. Now take a look at this. This is next Thursday. I've got a system here that's in both models, and I got a system here that's in both models, meaning that we see some alignment in both in timing and in space of this late next week system. So this is Thursday getting into Friday. And look at this monster coming out in the midsection of the country right there at the end. It's in both models, almost timed and placed in the same position. So that is the depth of that trough I mentioned just a moment ago right here that we got to keep a close eye on. Now, I'm not going to show you the snowfall from that yet because it's going to change a ton. And each of the next 4 maps includes last night's snow. These are all 0Z runs, which means they're going to include data from 7 p.m. Central Time last night onward. So that's what you got here. But the next system coming through, take a look. And the one leaving, there we go. That's the European model. This is the artificial intelligence. There you go, getting some of that right in through here out of this next system, plus bigger snows in the Sierra Nevada. That's the GFS. Again, we can also pick up on the chances for snow here, which we just saw in the models. And finally, the NBM, the National Blend of Models. Just want to kind of give you that rundown of all 4 of those. If you're curious about model performance right now, I just want to show you something. The top performer, and this does not include the artificial intelligence statistics, but it's still the European model. It's got about a 2, almost 3% advantage over the GFS as of late. So I just want you to see that even though the models are timed pretty well right now, I'm kind of resting a lot on the European solution, if I could find it for you here. Just kind of getting a good glimpse at that. So if I do use the European just to say, what's the total amount of liquid in all of this? System 1 out. Here comes the one right here, bringing in more for Wyoming and Nebraska, which needs this. Then you're going to see coming out of New Mexico into Texas, spreading along the Gulf Coast. We do need rain down here pretty badly. We just keep playing this out. Remember, next Wednesday, Thursday, there it is, watch the West. Just bringing in a monstrous system. That gets you out to Friday the 14th, which is when that next big system will be taking shape in the midsection of the country. So let's use this and kind of hone in on a couple of areas. I did want to show you the southwest. So if you look, Arizona, I've got pockets of Arizona picking up over an inch in the models right now. Most of California, I mean, this is a soaking over the next 10 days from Southern California to Northern California, and big time snow in the Sierra Nevada. And if you want to take a look at what that snow looks like, just in the next 10 days in the European model, we're easily going to be picking up 4 feet of snow or more in this area, plus snow into the Columbia or Colorado Basin, and also here in the Great Basin. So we will see good March additional snowfall that is much needed. Going a little farther north of that, you can see up the Cascades, what's going to be happening here in parts of the Northern Rockies. But it's the snow here in the in British Columbia that's critical for the Columbia Basin, which I kind of misspoke about a moment ago. But that's critical just to get that in that region. So if we look at how much total liquid is in this and say who gets better than an inch of total liquid over the next 10 days, now you can start to see those pockets. And then, of course, the current system exiting and the additional moisture coming out of that second system that rolls through the southeast soon. But we still have larger areas that are drier. And over the next 10 days, I see a lot of Montana, the southern part of the Canadian Prairie, North Dakota, northern Minnesota. And this region just continues to see more of the larger dry slots of this system, of these systems, than getting moisture farther back. There'll be a narrow corridor in the middle here, I think in parts of Nebraska that does okay. But that's the 10-day probability of staying under a half inch. All right. Now, if we go out there and look at week 2, here's all of our maps kind of strung across the top. Very similar patterns in each. Let's go and just blow up the European ensemble to have a good look at it. And once again, we do see this area showing up drier. And this will only be corrected by subtropical jet stream flow or a trough that comes out, tilts negatively, and just spins off of the Front Range right over the panhandles, taking a good long pull out of Gulf moisture, and we've just not seen that yet. We're waiting to see the atmosphere do that. So that's your precip. All right. Now, I mentioned at the beginning we will talk about the stratospheric warming event, a sudden stratospheric warming event. And so our polar vortex has made this massive forecast going to very weak. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. It looks something like this. So there's the polar vortex. Here's the big warming event. Now, this is in the stratosphere, and this thing is wobbly. There's another sudden stratospheric warming event here, Chukchi Sea, Bering Sea, and it even splits the polar vortex. We may drop a piece here and there. But the thing to always remember, and you say, why haven't you been talking about this? The thing to always remember is this has to be linked up with tropospheric features. You can have major wobbles and changes in the stratosphere, but if you don't have a syncing of the stratospheric events with the tropospheric events, then it really doesn't matter. So, for example, where are we? Friday the 14th. We've got a deep trough here on Friday the 14th. And as a result, we're just a bit out of sync with lining these two things up to deliver major shots at cold air. So through the next 10 days globally, I mean, you saw a piece of the polar vortex break off here, yet we've got mild conditions in the Black Sea region. And we don't see extreme cold air intrusions in the United States out of this. Now, if that changes, I'll talk about it. But I'm waiting to see those things sync up. Frost risk over the next 7 days. We're going to look at this in every forecast through spring. I just want to give you the latest I've got on where that frost line is going to be across the United States. If we look at these max temperatures, here's what we see today. Getting into tomorrow, we know that by Friday, big warm-up is starting to take shape again in the northern plains. There it is by Saturday into Sunday. I mean, we could be as warm in the northern plains as we are in pockets of the southern plains. And then we get into Monday, very warm in the northern plains. Into Tuesday, that presses east, 70. Maybe my kids are going to love this. That's where we live right here. I put a dot over our house. So kind of just see what we're expecting early next week. But this is all ahead of the broader trough coming into the west. See the cool there? That's going to rip this system out, but it's not on the 11th. It's on the 13th, 14th, 15th. Okay? So from the 10th to the 15th, big warm sector opens, cold coming in with that low. And by day, 10 through 15, we do see that that's going to start to upset the temperature pattern going forward. But overall, I don't see a linking of this with the stratospheric polar vortex. Okay. A couple of things internationally. There is a deep low pressure system, a cyclone, tropical cyclone off the coast of Australia right now. And if you take a look, this is what we're expecting in terms of total precipitation out of this. Now, this is in millimeters, and but we have the potential for grabbing I mean, a lot. This is, of course, New South Wales and Queensland. And we have got, along the coast here, major cities in this area that have the potential for grabbing, 4, 5, 6 inches of rain out of this system as it goes through. If you look back at the month of February, that has been a region that's been quite dry. We've been a bit wetter down here, kind of on the headwaters of the River Murray, and then quite wet because of tropical activity in northern Queensland. But this is going to hit a region that's been quite dry for some time, so we'll continue to monitor that going forward. In terms of South American weather, the narrative is still kind of consistent. We're still in a very dry week, which is capping off a dry month in this region. Heavy rain still coming down into Argentina. That's the 10-day outlook. So you notice that most of the next 10 days still very dry. Eastern Mato Grosso, Tocantins, Goiás, Minas Gerais, and then Bahia. A lot of cotton grown right here in addition to corn. But then week 2 starts to bring some moisture into south central Brazil. According to the models, that's been the last couple of days. But the next 14, we still hit some key growing areas with quite dry air. And the question is how long that's going to continue, and does it come back in about 4 weeks from now as we get into the beginning of April? I think that would be a major concern in this area for safrinha crops. All right, here's what was just released. We know, we talked about this earlier, our La Nina is fading quickly. It's already gone in the east, still kind of pumping around here in the central and western Pacific. But the newest update is to really take this through INSO neutral all the way through, June, July, August, kind of maybe knocking on the door of weak El Nino conditions. But that's just the ocean temperatures. You've got to have the wind component for me to even start talking about El Nino-like weather later on in the year. So that is a story saved for later. But what we do know is that the models respond to this. And I'm going to show you an international view of this. I will talk about the details of this throughout the next several videos. March, April, May. This could be critical. Now, what we don't know is if this is an initialization bias. In other words, the model started dry and it just keeps it. If this is right, this could point to a problem on the safrinha crop, and I got to watch that carefully. Notice most of Australia quite wet, but around the Black Sea, drier. Okay, that's March, April, May. In the U.S., we've been concerned as we go through spring that our most active weather is here. And I know you're looking at a small map, but I want you to see the whole picture around the planet. So we've got these drier risks in this area encroaching on the plains, but very active spring here in the in the Midwest. Now we go from there, I should say more Ohio Valley East, Dixie Alley down in the southeast. May, June, July, the model's done it again. It's just kept this broader area of drier conditions. And so we're going to look at some other growing areas. So what's going on around the Black Sea? Not a strong signal. What about China? Drier south, wetter north. They're looking at quite wet conditions. Manchurian Plain, North China Plain. India's looking quite wet, and this isn't even monsoon season yet. We look at Indonesia, same thing. Let's go now into June, July, August. So very wet forecast to India. Very wet Manchurian Plain, North China Plain, drier southeast. Could we look at drier conditions around the Black Sea? Possibly. But then you see this whole region, the Canadian Prairie, through the Western Corn Belt, the winter wheat belt in the middle part of the country. And we just see this broader area of drier conditions, which continues to be forecast by the models. And then we get into July, August, September. And again, you've got the view of it here. So I have not analyzed this. I'm just looking at it fresh with you. It just came out. And we need to spend some more time thinking through this. Now it's a model, but we look for consistent behavior in the model. And this was the top thing that we talked about yesterday at Commodity Classics. So this is just a concern that's ongoing, and I want to let you know about it. All right. I'll continue to watch this carefully. We'll talk more about it soon. Thanks.